First, let's start with this case. I, 26, female, and my fiancé, 26, male, are planning to get married this coming May. Last week, my parents and I were discussing plans for the wedding, and the topic of my wedding dress came up. Ever since I was a teenager, I have dreamed of wearing a pink wedding gown. That color makes me feel the most beautiful, and in my opinion, suits me better than white. My mom has been aware of my preference for years, but she always assumed it was just a phase that I would outgrow once I started planning my actual wedding. Now that the wedding is approaching, I brought up the idea of the pink dress during our conversation. This led to a serious disagreement with my mom. She argued that wearing a pink gown would be immature and embarrassing, and claimed I might regret the decision when I look back at my wedding photos in the future. I countered that there is nothing wrong with choosing a color that makes me happy on my special day. Even my fiancé, James, has no issue with the color of my dress. I also pointed out that regret can go both ways. I might regret not wearing the pink dress even more than she thinks I'd regret choosing it. I'd rather make the decision that feels right for me now. While my dad hasn't been as outspoken about the dress color, he seems to be siding with my mom because of how upset she's been over the matter. For the past week, the argument has continued without resolution. My mom has even gone so far as to say they won't contribute their half of the wedding dress cost if I choose pink, despite our initial agreement to split the expense evenly. My brother, 30 male, thinks this whole disagreement over the dress color is absurd. He told my mom that if she and my dad refused to help, he would be more than willing to cover their share of the cost. He also mentioned that they might end up regretting their behavior more than I would ever regret wearing the pink dress. Now, I feel conflicted. On one hand, I've always envisioned myself in a pink gown on my wedding day, and it's something that truly brings me joy. On the other hand, the way my parents have reacted and made such a big deal out of this has made me second-guess my decision. I don't want this to become a source of unnecessary drama, but I also don't want to give up on something so meaningful to me. Am I in the wrong here? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Your mom is overreacting. Get the dress that makes you happiest, in whatever color you want. If they refuse to pay for half, have a smaller wedding, or take your brother up on his offer. If having a smaller wedding means your parents' friends aren't invited, oh well. I hate gifts with strings attached. It's just manipulative, not a real gift. You're not in the wrong. Historically, people didn't wear white. Queen Victoria changed all that in the 19th century with her white gown, which was widely published and popularized the idea. Before 1840, brides often wore red, pink, blue, brown, or black. However, white didn't become the standard choice for brides until the mid-20th century. This was due to the rise of mass media, fashion magazines, and Hollywood films, which helped reinforce the association between white dresses and weddings. So, just remind her that this is your wedding and you want to feel pretty in a gown of your choice. My daughter got married in August in a lavender dress. She was absolutely stunning. A friend's daughter got married recently in a black gown. Striking. The point is, you do you. You're only planning to marry once, right? Best to get it right then, as you won't have a do-over. I'd suggest you have a calm sit-down with her and ask what's causing her concern. Does your mom have fantasies about you walking down the aisle in white? Or is she worried about what other people will think? What's the problem exactly? Try to listen to her concerns, but ultimately, it's your day. If she's paying for the wedding and insists you wear white, you might want to reconsider that. Maybe have a small wedding with a barbecue reception at a park or something that you can afford. For heaven's sake, don't go into debt for a wedding. So not worth it. Best of luck, dear. Next up, everyone knows the relief of finally deplaning after a long Thanksgiving weekend. This particular flight had been 4 hours long, and by the time we reached the gate, everyone was eager to disembark. I was seated in an aisle seat, so when we stopped, I stood up to retrieve my bag from the overhead compartment, as did the gentleman across the aisle and those in front of me. Behind me, a mother with 2 young children, approximately 3 and 4 years old, allowed both kids to crawl over their seats and join her and her husband in the aisle. This made the already crowded space even more cramped. The younger child squeezed between me and his sister, immediately starting to throw a tantrum. He began pushing his sister and yelling at his dad, shouting things like, "Let me go! I don't like you, Dad!" The mom, in a sing-song voice, responded, "We don't talk to Daddy that way, Troom." As this unfolded, people in the rows behind us stepped back into their seats to make space. Meanwhile, the mom, using a much firmer tone than she did with her upset child, directed her attention to me and said, "Can you please move your body out of his way?" At first, I thought she was speaking to her husband, who was also crammed in the aisle. But then she repeated the request and tapped my shoulder, making it clear she was addressing me. I couldn't move forward because the passengers ahead of me were still retrieving their belongings, and I also needed to grab my bag. Meanwhile, the child continued screaming. I calmly explained, "I'm sorry, I need to get my bag." Her response was, "Well, your backside is in his face." At that point, I decided I wasn't going to sit back down in my seat to accommodate their family taking up so much space in the aisle. I stayed where I was, grabbed my bag when I could, and deplaned as planned. Am I wrong for refusing to move out of the way? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Dismissing her child's behavior entirely with a teasing tone, instead of disciplining his behavior and taking her frustration out on you. She can learn to be patient. You weren't in the way. She's just entitled. The people farther up the plane get off first. That's just how it be. You're not in the wrong. You cannot change stupid. Ignoring her was the best thing to do. Pity you couldn't fart on demand. That would have cleared the area behind you. You're not in the wrong. You were already standing up when Wedgie pulled his BS. I would have told her that I was very uncomfortable with her kid getting up in my personal business like that, and to kindly leash him if he isn't trained to be free walking. But I am petty like that. Yes, I have kids. Yes, I have flown with kids. Next up, for some background, I, 21 male, was a member of my university's music club for just over a year, up until this past September. I initially joined as a guitarist after auditioning in September 2023. Due to my involvement in the local music industry since I was 14, I had connections that provided resources the club hadn't had access to before. Things like sound engineers, studio time, and opportunities at certain events. I agreed with the previous club board to keep my contributions low-key so it wouldn't undermine the board's authority or create problems. The situation changed this semester when a new board was elected. The new president, whom we'll call Emma, was someone I had a falling out with due to a split within our friend group in the club. When Emma became president, she labeled me and a few others problematic and promptly kicked us out. Initially, I considered severing ties with the club entirely. However, some of my friends were still members and had performances lined up, so I waited until the first event of the semester concluded in late October before withdrawing my support. After that, I informed my contacts that I would no longer be working with the club and thanked them for their help. About a week later, the former club president reached out to let me know that Emma had contacted her, asking for assistance with the sound engineers, who were now refusing to work with the club. The former president explained the agreement we had in place, which was the first Emma had heard of it. Later that same day, I received an email inviting me to a meeting with the current board to discuss my past involvement with the club. During the 2-hour meeting, the board essentially asked me to resume my contributions, admitting they couldn't sustain the club without the resources I had provided and that it would be too costly for them otherwise. They even offered to reinstate my membership. I declined. The following week, word spread, and I began receiving messages from current club members accusing me of punishing them for the board's actions. Some said it wasn't fair that they would suffer because of decisions made by Emma and her team. While my friends, both those still in the club and the ones who were kicked out with me, have supported my decision, I can sense disappointment from some who are upset they won't have the same opportunities to perform anymore. I feel strongly that since I'm no longer part of the club, I'm not obligated to continue providing support. However, the backlash from members and seeing how it's affecting my friends has made me question whether I might be in the wrong here. So, am I wrong for refusing to help my old music club after they removed me? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. This sounds like a classic case of F around. Find out. If you are still interested in participating with your friends, tell them you'll come back if Emma and all her minions resign. If not, wash your hands of it. It sounds like you have plenty of opportunities to play music. Hopefully, this will also be a lesson to everyone involved that music is a small world and petty nonsense like this has real costs, and they should all grow up. The club existed before you. Why does Emma tell everyone she can't keep the club running now that you withdraw the perks they had for a year? Maybe Emma is not the right fit for the board, and the club member should look into her direction, not yours. You're not in the wrong. Tell every club member to get lost if they cry or ramble, or to vote for a new board that can keep the club running. Isn't that the core task of them? Like, you had one job style? You're not in the wrong. You cannot work with people who have shown enmity towards you. Stop. Period. This is a time of transition that would have probably occurred anyway as you age and get involved in additional groups and interests. So do not feel guilty, OP. Your true friends will understand. Next up, I, 25 female, recently got engaged to my partner of 6 years, and we're planning an autumn 2026 wedding. I've always loved Gothic aesthetics and have dreamed of a celestial, spooky October vibe for my special day, so the timing felt perfect. However, my brother, 26 male, is complicating things. For some background, my brother has a long history of struggles, including substance abuse, legal issues, and financial instability. Unfortunately, this has often made him the center of attention in our family, overshadowing many of my own milestones. For instance, he crashed his car on the day of my postgraduate graduation, revealed he had racked up $10,000 in debt during my master's ceremony, and went missing for 2 weeks during a drug-related episode while I was hospitalized for mental health reasons. While I love him, his behavior has always been difficult to manage, and I'm tired of feeling like I have to excuse or accommodate him. Currently, my brother is in a relationship with a woman significantly older than him, 43 female, who has 3 children, the oldest of whom is 21. They've been dating for 5 months, and while I've tried to be supportive, their relationship is unstable. He frequently complains about her and her kids, making it clear that things are far from smooth between them. About a month ago, my brother asked about the timing of my wedding. When I mentioned autumn 2026, he immediately claimed that he and his girlfriend were planning to get married around the same time, and even gave me a specific date. I was stunned because they aren't even engaged, and she's still married, so she would need to finalize a divorce before they could wed. When I asked if they might consider holding off to avoid conflict, he insulted my relationship, saying it didn't take him 6 years to decide he wanted to marry someone. He also accused me of being insecure and told me to get over myself. After that conversation, I decided to stop speaking to him. My dad tried to mediate, suggesting that my brother apologize and work things out with me, but it's been almost a month, and I haven't heard anything from him. In the meantime, I've found a venue that perfectly matches my vision for the wedding, but I'm hesitant to book it. My brother's relationship seems unstable, and it's hard to imagine them making it to 2026, let alone actually getting married. However, I don't want to risk causing even more drama within the family if I go ahead with my plans. At the same time, I'm tired of feeling like I have to put my life on hold or live by his rules. What should I do? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. It's Deck 2024. First one to actually book something, actually put a deposit down, actually send out a save the date owns the date. Not the month, not the season, the year. Just that date. One of you would be an idiot to book the same date after receiving confirmation of something more than an idea y'all just going back and forth for. Y'all should be able to have a convo about possible events years in future without having it go to insults and needing a mediator. But clearly y'all cannot. So it's a loss to me why y'all are even having these convos with each other. It's like you're giving him pre-notice on when to ruin things. First one to save the date, which shouldn't happen till someone puts deposit down on a venue. You're not in the wrong. Lock it down. Don't tell him until he gets a save the date like everyone else. That is if you invite him at all. Why would you need to consult him? You aren't marrying him. I wouldn't think of him again. Live your life as you want. Do the things you want when you want. Let whatever drama he chooses to live with, and those who chose to involve themselves with it, just make it known. My wedding or his drama. People cannot do both. Next up, during our weekly team meeting, one of my colleagues shared some exciting news. She's pregnant and will be going on maternity leave in April. Naturally, everyone was thrilled for her, myself included. We all congratulated her and wished her and her family the very best. Later, I ended up in the elevator with her and 3 other team members, 5 of us in total, out of a team of 11. Just to make conversation, I casually asked her if she was having a boy or a girl. To my surprise, her expression changed, and she gave a brief, somewhat grim response, "Boy." I thought her reaction was odd, but didn't press further and let the subject drop. When I got back to my desk, she approached me and told me that my question was inappropriate. She explained that she had been planning to announce the gender herself in her own way, but because I had asked in the elevator, she felt forced to reveal it then and there. She added that it had killed the magic of her planned announcement since now half the team already knew. I apologized right away, explaining I hadn't intended to overstep, but she still gave me a lecture about how I shouldn't ask personal questions, and then walked off. I'm honestly baffled. I never thought asking about the baby's gender would be considered a personal or inappropriate question. I'm 24 and admittedly don't know much about pregnancy, babies, or social etiquette around them. I genuinely only meant to make friendly conversation. Am I the wrong one here? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Gender announcements and reveals are only special to the person announcing it, and I feel they've gotten so out of hand. Quite frankly, she could have just said, "I'll wait to announce that myself to everyone if you don't mind." But she decided to be petty AF about it. And her being pregnant and hormones isn't an excuse to deflect bad behavior onto you, someone who was being kind asking questions. Don't bother getting her a gift. That's a perfectly appropriate question, and she needs to get over herself. It's not like you ruined a family surprise. She would have answered more gracefully, along the lines of, "We're actually keeping it a secret for everyone, but I'm excited to tell you at the reveal." She made it awkward all by herself. You're not in the wrong. You're not in the wrong. That's a completely normal question to ask when someone announces they're pregnant. If she wanted to announce it herself and surprise the team, she could have easily told you she was keeping the gender a surprise for now.